If you've been wanting to make a shift in your romantic relationships so that they can be funner, lighter, pleasant, and healthy, then this is a video for you. It might be likely that you've experienced one or more relationships that were unhealthy and riddled with toxic habits from either you, them, or both parties. But first off, hi, I'm Captain. I am a spiritual wellness coach and a hypnotherapist, and I have tasked myself with the desire to help people rise above their abusive past and break away from patterns that keep them attracting less than they deserve. So buckle up. This is going to be a long one. I know the word toxic is overused in internet culture these days, but we're not going to shy away from using it in this video because the reality for many people is they are stuck in a toxic loop that they wish to escape from. So let's call a spade a spade. So what is a toxic relationship? Good old Google has defined it as a relationship is toxic when your well-being is threatened in some way, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. On a basic level, any relationship that makes you feel worse rather than better can become toxic over time. This signifies that there can be varying degrees of toxicity, but that ultimately they can build up over time and damage your psyche no matter how big or small. Because let's be real, emotional, mental, and physical abuse, even over a short period of time, can lead to long-lasting effects on the mind and body, leading to things like PTSD or stress-induced dis-ease. Once we've been abused, even if sometimes we were a part of the problem, it can become easy to project that past experience onto our new relationships, causing us to self-sabotage and feeding into the toxic loop. I have experience in this as I grew up in a household where my parents engaged in toxic behavior. They would have physical altercations in front of my brother and I, constant arguments, and lots of lying and cheating, mostly on my dad's part. My mom would go on to have a long-term relationship with a man that was an alcoholic who would prioritize drinking over spending time with her. Later in life, I had my own toxic relationships. I was subjected to lying, cheating, manipulation, gaslighting, and even physical altercations. There were times when my old partner and I would yell at each other so loud that the neighbors could hear. The reason I am not watering down my experience is because I know how toxic things can get, and some of us may never even told a soul about it. It's easy to feel shame, embarrassment, and to even downplay what we went through. But when I talk to people in my community, as I'm someone who's in the healing field, they either tell me or I can tell that they have gone through many similar things. And yes, it is possible to turn yourself around. Today, I successfully maintain a healthy and positive relationship with my partner of 6 years. There was a time when I never thought that was possible for me. My trauma led me to believe that every relationship would turn sour. Through these steps that I'm about to share, I was able to break out of that narrative and sustain a relationship that feels safe and secure. Finding the right partner. The first step towards having a healthy relationship is aligning yourself with a partner that could sustain it with you. A relationship is when the people involved actively choose to continue giving energy to the connection. The moment one or more of them has stopped giving their energy towards it, the relationship begins to deteriorate. So you have to have a partner that is willing and ready to do the work with you. Of course, you can start this journey alone, but take this step into consideration when you are ready to start dating. Even if a relationship starts off rocky, it is possible to turn the ship around with the help and dedication of both partners. Also, just because a relationship can turn around, be mindful of delusion. If there is little to no evidence that your partner is putting in the necessary work and shifts to turn the relationship around, even after several conversations and promises, it might be time to face the reality that the person is stopping the possibility of the relationship making a positive turn. Mutual love and respect. You have got to respect each other. When we don't respect each other, it's easy to say mean things, hurling out insults, petty comments, and low blows. When we think of love, what comes to mind? Respect, honesty, and consideration. Would my partner appreciate this? Does my partner love me fully for who I am? Have I been totally honest with my partner about who I fully am and the things that I engage in? Date someone you respect and that you can talk to with respect. The love must be mutual. When you look down on a person, let's say you're dating someone who you feel is beneath you, next thing you know, you're putting them down all the time, you're passive aggressive, you're annoyed. How is that going to lead to a healthy relationship? Whereas if you date someone that you respect, you could never dream of saying anything hurtful or awful or petty to them. Clear communication. Learn to ask for what you want. If you want marriage after a certain time, kids, things like that, then just say so. Don't play games. Don't say what you think the other person wants to hear, like, oh yeah, I'm fine to keep it casual. Let's say you don't want kids and the person you're dating is talking about how much they want them. Be upfront. Tell them. Clear communication is going to be the way that you make sure y'all are on the same page. Also, when you're communicating, you don't have to be a dick about it. Don't say every thought you have for the sake of honesty. Here's an example of sharing a hard truth the right way. I do not want to be in a monogamous relationship, at least not at this time. Versus, I am very attracted to other people and I want to act on it. It is fine if that is your truth, but there is a certain way to deliver it that isn't going to deliberately hurt another person who cares for you. All right, here's another one. Don't threaten to leave the relationship all the time. This is a relationship killer. Unless you mean it, don't say it. Don't bluff. We often say this because we want to elicit a reaction out of the other person that perhaps will have them begging for us to stay. We think that this will make us feel validated that they truly do love us. There are other ways to achieve this that do not put you and your partner through agony. Even if you drop the act and decide to stay, it places insecurity and distrust into the relationship. And one or more partner may begin to check out of fear that you are going to do so eventually. Effectively communicate what is bothering you. Frame it from your perspective rather than shifting the blame onto your partner. For example, I'm feeling a little left out versus you ignored me. Notice how the first one frames it from what I'm feeling and how I'm perceiving things, because it may not be your partner's intention to ignore you or to have distance with you. It might have been a byproduct of them being stressed or overworked or something like that, rather than pointing the finger and accusing them of doing it on purpose, of like, you are ignoring me. Even in a statement like, you made me feel ignored, where you think like, well, I am acknowledging how I feel ignored and that's about me. It's saying like, you made me feel ignored, is placing that blame back onto them. So it's better to own your own perception and emotions and say, I'm feeling left out. Pay attention to how somebody argues or handles conflict. Arguments are gonna happen, but a relationship that works comes from people who know how to handle conflict with each other. Pay attention to how this person handles conflict and see if it's something that you could bear to live with and work from and cooperate. If somebody is just constantly stubborn, they go from 0 to 100, they're punching holes in walls, they are yelling, but you know, when you look at them and you think, well, when we're not arguing, everything is amazing. But then when we argue, oh my God, he breaks my property. That is something that is very important to take note. And is this person really so great for you if they cannot handle being confronted with any sort of negative situation? Seek somebody who wants to communicate on an even ground, who wants to listen, who prioritizes their love for you over the need to be right, And of course, these things can apply to yourself as well. Identify your toxic habits. What are they? Write them down and don't play dumb. When we choose to be petty, we often play it off as we didn't do anything on purpose or we weren't aware it was coming off that way. Things like, well, they riled me up, or they started it and so I had to finish it, or I had to get the last word. But don't lie to yourself, especially when you're doing your own self-reflection work. In order for us to have a healthy relationship, we must be a healthy partner ourselves. Be the partner that you would want to have. Are you passive-aggressive? Are you insecure and needy? Are you distant, angry, short-tempered? Break out a journal and write these things down. Reflect on past relationships, whether they were situationships or long-term ones, and take note of the things that you are actively contributing to that connection. All the negative things that you notice that might have egged on a situation, instigated a situation. In some cases, we are the instigator, and that is going to be very important to admit to yourself in order to move forward and do better. Notice what triggers you. If you have a trigger around being cheated on, it might not be best to date the playboy who is non-committal. And lastly, address your habits and make changes. A big part about shifting into healthy relationships is being able to take accountability. We can't always shift the blame onto someone else. Those are things that we need to take ownership of and take a step back and realize, is this actually in alignment with the kind of partner that I would want to have? And if the answer is no, then start to make a shift. Begin to take note about things about your partner, because you're not the only one in this relationship, right? Ask yourself, what triggers my partner? For example, in my relationship, my partner gets really flustered when I start to become a backseat driver. Even though sometimes I feel justified, it can just come off as rude and mean. When we are driving in new cities and he accidentally misses a turn as I'm trying to guide him with the GPS. Previously, I would get upset because in my mind, I'm like, how could you miss that turn? It was right there, I told you. But the justification is never worth disrespecting or putting down your partner. Everyone makes mistakes. I noticed that this was something that he did not like, even if he had not directly told me. So now when we drive, I don't chime in and I do what I can to genuinely be helpful. Now when he accidentally misses an exit, I say, oh, no big deal, we'll catch the next one. Recognize what is worth a fight and what is not. Don't create problems where there doesn't need to be any. Learn to self-regulate and don't leak your bad mood onto them, such as when you had a bad day at work, school, whatever it may be. Some final suggestions. Try therapy for yourself and also try couples therapy. I also recommend reading the book, Getting to Zero: How to Work Through Conflicts in Your High Stakes Relationships. The author of the book is a relationship coach who has developed a program on how to become a relationship coach and how to embody your own healthy relationships. I find that the number one thing that really tends to destroy relationships or make them toxic is the inability to know how to navigate negative situations or conflict. And so if we can put forth steps like this through reading this book, listening to their videos, taking classes or therapy, then we can develop a toolkit on how to work through these things, so that way something that might have previously been a fight now is just like a blip in the past. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If I missed anything, leave a comment down below what might have helped you make that shift, and also leave recommendations or suggestions for future topics you'd like me to cover relating to overcoming toxicity and being a toxica in our lives. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Until next time.